Okay, welcome everyone. We'll start our lesson 4. Today lesson will go through the law 4 learning outcome 4 law for accounting. If you have any question, please drop an email and you at ukversity.co.uk. Today lesson key focus will be analyze the requirement of data protection. We'll go through intellectual property rights can be protected. We'll look around the legislation relating to employment and assess the importance of intellectual property rights. That will be in our discussion. Data protection is use information in business requirement of data protection. Data protection, GDPR, in impact intellectual property right. That's the indicative content what we're supposed to go through. Copyrights and things. We'll go through employment law, termination, dismissal. So that will be the key in our discussion. In the previous lesson, we'll do a bit recap. Lesson 1, we discuss about contract law. Lesson 2, we discuss about insolvency, and lesson 3, we went through the company law. So today lesson is key focus about various legislation is a data protection in account is very important in we need to protect the data of the client. So key pieces of information that's complied stored by the businesses by implies and record and the customer details and loyalty scheme and transaction and data collection need to be protected. This is to prevent the data from being misused by the third party. And under the professional code of ethics, during our lesson 3, we discuss about 5 professional code of ethics: professional behavior, professional competency, due care, confidentiality. So client confidentiality is the most important thing. And we need to be make sure we protect the client and we not disclose the information to the third party. The ethics as well is a law. If you break the law, it's a criminal offense. So such as scams and identity theft. So what are the requirement of Data Protection Act? Data Protection 6 important principle: be obtain and process fairly, lawfully and transparently. Be process for specific, explicit, and lawful purposes. You don't collect the data more than what is required to perform the job. Like if your client is with you, you need their address, correspondence, date, identity, and things. But you don't need their child, their date of birth. What? Of course, you can find the next who will be responsible in case of if the client anything happened with the client. So uh, other than that, you don't need the extra information, what they eating, where they sit, where they do, what's, these are the excessive data which is not required by law. So be adequate, relevant, and not excessive for those purposes. So that's meant by. Okay, let's please. Oh, sorry about. Be kept, for no longer than the necessity for specific purposes. Don't keep the data for longer forever. Yes, and not selling to the third party for the sake of data mining and earning money. Be processed in the secure manner and taking up appropriate, security measures with the regard of the right of accidental and unauthorized access of the personal data. So it's a crime. It can be charged if you move the data from UK to any other country with outside EU. You need to get the permission from ICO, Information Commission of Loss and use are notified. So we need to be informed. So key terminology, what is the intellectual property right? So intellectual property is the something that you create using your own mind. Example stories or inventions or your logos you're protecting. So you have to make sure your data is a protected, you're secure, yes, not passing to the third party intellectual property rights. Yeah, name of the product, invention, designs that can be. Okay, we have an employment law, and under employment law, we can look around various legislation, anti-discrimination laws. We can look around employment rights, Health and Safety Act, leaving employment, those legislation, those we can look around. So guys, so we need to be well aware. What is the employment law? Employment law is groups together with the law and regulation that address, the right of individual employed within the organization, like working time, national minimum wage, equality law, which is Equality Act 2010, health and safety, and number of other legislation. So we have 4.1 learning outcome. We have analyze the requirement of the data protection, which we said, here need to be discussed six principal: data protection, consent of the data subject, process, the necessary performance of the contract. You need a necessary compliant purposes. You need to protect via interest of the data subject and other person, processing the necessary performance task carried out in the public interest. That's why you need the data. So we need to be look around legitimate interest, pursuit, control, and third party, except you've been given the authorization. So what is the personal data? So personal data, any information about living individual which is capable of identifying the individual. Sensitive personal data is defined any information relating to an individual or ethnic, origins, political opinion, religious beliefs, and trade union memberships, health and safety condition. We're not supposed to declare the third party without the information of the client. So what is the data protection? Data protection is about avoiding the harm to individual by misusing, mismanaging their personal data. So we collect, use, and store the personal data. Data Protection Act, apply to you and set the eight principle which we earlier mentioned. Only collect the information that need. Under GDPR is becoming sixth principle, but under Data Protection Act, it used to be. So we have a General Data Protection Regulation 2018, which is like, guys, when you log in on computer, it's message carry on coming except cookies. Yes, most of us in working in employment, so we have to get the training, and these are the key principles. If you want to get the information, any information hold by anyone, so you have a right to send the subject access request. Paying £10, you can get all the information or correspondence. So you have a right. If you want to get NHS file, immigration file, any bank correspondence, you have a right to ask. Data processing will be held liable. GDPR, yes, complies with the GDPR, while ICO stay in the last resort. Yes, potential fines can be much greater, present 4% of annual global turnover. So GDPR principle, these are lawful, fairness, purpose, limitation, data minimization, accuracy, storage, integrity, confidentiality, and accountability, as we mentioned earlier in my discussion. So we need to be look around. Data protection terminology, the data controller is the person or the organization who determine how and the data will process and control and secure the document and lock. And if you're giving third party contract, make sure they are. And data protection officer can be specific role to the legal requirement purposes. We have a national crime agency can charge. Can I still process the personal data? Do I need to consent? Yes, you have to look around the consent of the clients, if you want. But a wider interest of the public, that's the most important. You have to, for the performance is correct, for the compliance is legal, for the protect the wider interest, yes, interest of the data subject and other person outside the official, authority in the public interest, and so on. Then we have a 4.2, which we looking the intellectual property right is protect in law. For example, patents, copyright, trademark, enable people to earn, recognition and financial benefits from what invest created. So we can protecting your intellectual properties, make easier to take the legal action against. Type of protection can be copyright, or yes, writing, literally work, arts, and those we can design. If you've done protection, how to apply, yes, trademark, protect logos, we can look around time allowed for application. Register design, we can look around patent, copyright, machines, parts, and so on. We can how the copyrights is protected, copyright protected your work and stuff, other using without your permission, because but in the real world it's a lot of happening, people are chaining, we have an internet, but still the legislation available, and as a professional organization and person, we need to be protect these, the things very closely. Yeah. So originally we need to be look around dramatic, yes, well, or we need to look around non-literary written work. We need to look around sound and music recording, film and television, broadcast, and so on. That's which we need to be protected. Copyright, how copyright protect your copy, prevent the people from copying your work. Yes, distributing copies of it, whether it is a free of charge, all this we need to be look around. Copyrights are overseas, which we need to be could be protected copyright in other country through the international agreement on and the convention of 50 or more countries. Yes, you're protecting not someone, but in real world, like if you look the Windows CDs, if you look the software is being copied and things. Huh? So 70 years after the author's death, 70 years from when the first published and the film and so on. Yes, patenting your invention. Yes, if you have invented something, you can protect under the copyright. You can register the copyright at regulators and internationally copyrights as well. So no one copy and the particular authorities can pursue, and you are entitled to claim, and someone can be charged. Patents are expensive and difficult to get, and what you can patent, yes, cannot be patent certain types of invention, including literary, dramatic, music. Yes, a way of doing business, playing games, and thinking, and methods of medical treatment, diagnostic way of information presented. That's all which we need to look around these points. What is a digital asset? Digital asset is the digital identity owned by the individual. Like if you created something electronically, so no physical presence, but still you can protect it. Protect important digital asset as intellectual property type. Implement to F whichever the possible manage right and access and follow Wi-Fi securities and so remedies for unlawful intellectual property rights. Yes, remedies available for successful claimant, private civil infringement actions against injunction and award and damages, delivery, tracing orders and order. There are three kinds of remedies again: the infringement of copyright, civil remedies, criminal remedies, administrative remedies. Yes, we can. Remedies mean, you can entitle. Why should I protect my intellectual property right? Of course, if you protect the intellectual property right, you have a right to claim. It's a competitive advantage for the company. No one else copy your ideas and things and your product. Carrying out the intellectual property right, you must carry out the audit before can pursue the intellectual property right protection, identify IPs used within your organization and currently own IP rights, and assess, IP's value and so on. So we need to be make sure we follow those. Important intellectual properties for the business: patent, protecting inventions. Yes, if you invent something, if you have PhDs and things, you develop something, so you can protect it. Trademark protection, if you like, look around Nike, look around Next and so on. So we can protect design rights. Yes, register the design three-dimension object. So right, automated protection, the appearance of the dimension object. Yes, so we need to be look around. It's very difficult sometimes. Companies carry on little bit, twist around things. Importance of intellectual copyrights, original work. Yes, protection automatically in the UK and but not in US, and does not need to be applied for the given original literary check in creation. That's which we need to be protecting your rights overseas. Yes, IP protection, territorial and use apply to regional countries, and many countries have similar IP laws to the UK and applying for. Then we have a 4.3. We look around the employment. So is implied and self-implied. Implied is anybody who controlled by the employer and have a certain condition, that's cluster. And self-implied where you have to manage your taxes, but no one is control you if you want to work at different times and things. Yes, and we can look around various legislation, patents, we can look around Health and Safety Act 1974, Discrimination Act. Now we have Equality Act 2010. So these are all the legislation as we've seen earlier. Health and Safety Act, anti-discrimination, employment rights, leaving employment. So please, we need to be follow these legislation. Type of employment, which can be implied and self-implied. Okay, guys, so we need to be make sure we protect. Okay, employment right. These are all lot of legislation. Employment Rights Act 1996, equal pay. All these legislation being replaced to Equality Act 2010, which is deal with the equal pay, which deal with the discrimination, which deal diversity, working regulations. Yes, 1998 limit to the work hours. You can read the separate legislation and updated version of single legislation, which is Equality Act 2010. Employment Act 2002, which is parent and the child under the 7, disabled child are the 18, and the right to be flexible working hours. Yes, national minimum wage 1998. That's the old case. This being changed to £10 42 pence now, and so on, and £9 42, and so on. So lot of so we have to look around the Finance Act, national minimum. If you make the redundant every year of employment 1 week salary, but top of the age brackets, half a week pay for each full year if you're under 22, if 1 week pay for each full year of 22 to 41, and 1.5 week pay for each the 41 year or older. And length of the service is capped up to 20 years. You can claim. We can look around. If you make redundancy, you need to give the notice. Then we have a dismissal or minimum notice period. We need to be continuous employment period of notice 1 week per complete years, and 12 years and more. So we have to look around. Some other, it depends on your contract or contractual agreement can be slightly different. So you have to entitle redundancy pay. You can look around the registered of work, crown servant, and various apprentices. So we have to look around the separate. Short-term or temporary contract or 0-hour contract can be more than 4 weeks. You're eligible. You're temporary layoff without pay or less than a half week pay for either more than 4 weeks in row. Yes, 13 feet. And so technically, if you're on the flexible working hour, if you're working more than consultation, you're entitled to consultation with your employer being made redundant. Yes, you have to give the training. You're being noticed. You being get the redundant pay or guardian pay advisory. If you want to look around the code, these are being given at ICAS, which is an organization and they give the code and conduct it. We have employment tribunal. So guys, consistent investigation involved, put the cases accomplished. These are all the codes which unfair dismissal which we need to be look around. That can be damages to the company's reputation. Case can goes to the employment tribunal. So we have to be look around. Constructive dismissal is when the force to leave your job against will be because of the employer conduct, and the reason you all leave the job must be serious. For example, they don't uh, pay you or suddenly demote you for no reason, and so on. So that can be leads to. So there are good few points, guys. I'm not reading word by word, but that's giving you overviews of that's which we need to be look around. Huh? Equal employment opportunity. We, as earlier mentioned, Equality Act, equal opportunity. We're not supposed to be discriminated by race, religion, and color. As the legislation, we have a British values as well: age, disability, gender, marriage, and see race, religion. Yes, and then you've been given some general article, please. It's good to read, especially when you're doing grievances procedures. We need to look around. Then you've been given the key links and the reference, and then you have some backup slides, which is additional material. Please, you can look around that, which is quite good too. When you do ACAS, we mentioned earlier, and under the ACAS, all the ACAS key point, which we call the compliance, misconduct, right of appeals, and grievances procedure if you have against someone. So every organization it's have its own legislation, plus we can follow these, which is generic to apply to everyone. Thanks for attending today's session. Hope I'll speak to you during our next session, which will be most important, which we will do assignment discussion. Thank you. Have a nice weekend. I hope so speak to you all. If any question you can ask. No? Okay, that's fine. Speak to you then. Thank you. Bye. Thanks, guys. Speak to you next week. Bye bye.